cares about Klaus Schwab? Not me. All right, let's see here. Yeah, you got to be patient with MicroStrategy. But if Bitcoin goes to like 50K, which it very well could, then where's strategy going, you know? Is Intel really that interesting? There's a lot more interesting stocks, I think. Yeah, one good lesson is try not to look at the stocks everyone else is looking at. Yeah, well, Perugino, if you're not willing to look at some obscure companies, you're going to be stuck looking at the same old stocks that everyone's looking at, which I don't think you want to do. Yeah, I do want to look at new. Yeah, Intel is just a stock too many people are looking at. You got to broaden your horizons a little. Intel's not an exciting company. It's like not going to double, or what are you hoping to get out of Intel? Yeah, Blob, you just got to get to know the industry a little bit. Sometimes it's not easy. Nobody said it'd be easy. I don't know when you'll be able to trade futures, I guess you're asking. Sorry, Michael. It's a zero. It's not a real drug. If you can't see that, I don't know. I think you might be blind. Yeah, alternative data can work. What is A2A? As fully commercially viable agents. You dreaming in the future, bro? No, we will not have a cure for ALS in the next 10 years. I'm not even sure we're going to have a treatment in the next 10 years. I'm not sure that's true. They got acquired. They were a pretty big franchise in the biopharma space. They were part of a new, larger bank now. I don't think certificates play a huge role. I don't know if these big companies are getting broken up or not, but I think it'd be terrible if they did. Yeah, I think coding skills basically are going to be required as an investor. I don't think pre-market changes, post-market, pre-market. I mean, price is a price, right? I certainly don't make a distinction. If the liquidity is there, liquidity is there. If the price is what you want, then the price is what you want. I've been a user of Replit for a long time. I don't use it every day. It's a great, I think, at least a learning tool. It's great for people who, maybe are not professional developers. I think consulting companies don't go public just for the same reason law firms don't. I mean, there's no real benefit. They're profitable. I've traded commodities. I know good macro people. I don't know macro people to follow. Not everyone's talking about their life online. Most people don't. A lot of people get in this habit of thinking that everybody is a creator and everybody's out there sharing content. That's just not... It's not what people do. Yeah, I would agree with that. The less information asymmetry in a market, the tougher it typically is. And in those markets, I'm not sure there's this much information asymmetry as you think. Most people have no clue what is going on. But yeah, sometimes it can be very, very ugly if you don't have certain information and everyone else has. Then you can really get smoked. Yeah, Kami's right. It's less about secrecy. They just don't have the time. And, in the old days, there was no medium to share with. Today, there is, and you're finding people who would normally be pretty secretive, like Bill Ackman, actually being fairly, they're actually seeing that the risk reward of being a public figure is now to the benefit. It's kind of, you're going to be a public figure whether you like it or not. You might as well try to embrace it and control the narrative. I don't know what you can do with Grok or not, so I haven't tried it too much. Oh, you're saying you can use Grok to check people's track records. It's certainly neat. Alibaba really has no beta. Not lately. RTX has some of the lowest beta in the market. I don't even know who Pabrai is, barely. Isn't that like the Buffett clone? You got to realize, like, whose praise are you talking about? CNBC is not praise, for example. CNBC is a retail investor praise doesn't count, It all depends on who's praising you. Consider the source. You guys have to be very snooty and arrogant when you think about recommending and listening to other people's recommendations. You got to hold your nose up and say, who's that? You shouldn't do in other parts of life, but when it comes to your money, you should be pretty protective about who you trust and who you let in. I don't know if you want to become arrogant as a business owner. I think you have to be pretty humble as a business owner. But when it comes to taking advice, I like the Kanye quote. Honestly, why should I take advice from somebody less successful than me? I do think there are, of course, places where you should. If you don't know anything about plumbing, you're still taking the advice of your plumber. That's interesting, Dusty. What do you say you should do instead? Don't make stock pitches. What's the alternative, I guess? I don't know who the other short sellers are, really. Yeah, I don't pay attention to that kind of thing. Yeah, I talk to Mark every now and then, once a year or so. I mean, there's some legal implications about the independence of the Fed, and can any executive branch, we talked about this last week, be truly independent under Humphrey's executor landmark Supreme Court ruling that allowed the FTC to have this staggered kind of super presidential existence, which, to me is, unconstitutional. You have to be in one branch of government. You can't sort of straddle all of them. That's not what the founding fathers would have wanted. I was trying to play a Deftones song earlier this week, and I'm just very out of rhythm and out of style. Like, I just couldn't hear the notes, couldn't hit the notes. I just sit in that weird C tuning, two full steps down, which is very strange. There are so many bad investing books. Almost all investing books are really bad. Like I said, you should be really judicious about who you're willing to let influence you, so you can learn some really bad things. And even the things you hear from me, take them with a grain of salt. Use them to, like I said about that famous chess book, use them to think about investing, not necessarily to just blindly do it. Sometimes, in fact, all the time, you should be listening and saying, well, I like that. That makes sense to me, or I don't like that. And let me consider the alternative, and constantly be checking these things and turning them over in your head. And when I did that in like I said, my period of deep thinking, which was around 2008 to 2010, I was able to really uncover a lot of secrets of investing that I think very few people have examined that deeply. And you'd be surprised at how much people do investing kind of mechanically or like on the fly without actually even thinking about what they're doing. Like, people will do things out of habit. This is the way I've worked on Wall Street my whole life. I read the sell side research notes. Okay, what if I told you should just close your email box, don't even read it? How would your day change? Would I have all this time to do research? Well, yeah, maybe you should do that. I'm spending my whole day looking at stock quotes. I look at the prices all day long. But if I told you just minimize the prices, don't even look at them. Why do you need the prices? What are you going to do? What are they telling you? Same thing with your P&L. There's only one thing that matters, which is the quality of the investments you make. Look at the prices once a day. There's all kinds of crazy... That's just work methodology. It's not even investment philosophy. Investment philosophy is different. That's when you're actually making the investments. But you need time to actually look at the investments. I had a period of breakthroughs in investing in 2008 to 2010 when I basically I'd closed down my first hedge fund, was in between opening my second hedge fund. And I spent a lot of time with my longtime friend, collaborator, and just sitting and thinking and talking about investing. It was very, very useful and profitable for me. It was a period of deep reflection, almost monastic. Talking about 𝗟𝗓𝗡𝗦, the chess master, world chess champion, who wrote My System in 1920s. Gainers, we got a bunch of mining stocks. Discover Financial, which Capital One's buying. Capital City Bank. Other resources stocks, mostly gold and silver. Capital One is up. Again, all gold and silver stocks up. Cogent and Infosys are up too. Those are, Infosys is the Indian outsourcer. Garden Health up 4%. But again, almost all gold stocks. Portfolio is flat. Very rough April. Probably one of the worst Aprils in market history. I don't think philosophy is that important, and I don't think investors, most investors aren't as cerebral as you think. Now me, I'm the cerebral assassin. Yeah, I'm not a bond guy. Exactly, cerebral assassin. That's my League of Legends name too. NVIDIA, look, the market's down. It is what it is. What are you going to do? I'll look at bonds. Yeah, eventually I will trade some options, but I only like to trade options if I'm up a lot and I really need to. And, it's generally not, fantastic. I would start with Python, a trader. Ooh, Quantum getting smoked nicely. S&P down 1.25%, but Quantum's down 3 or 4%. Looks like people are giving up on it. Rigetti below 8. D-Wave approaching below 6. Yeah, PyTorch is pretty good. I don't know, Kenner. These kinds of questions annoy me. We leak in the algo. Okay, let's see what's going on. Something just changed in my portfolio. We're back down to up 10 bips. It'd be neat to have a tool that sort of explained your P&L. Yeah, Steinhardt was one of the best investors. When can someone justify buying a private jet? Well, I would say he probably won around $1 billion. That kind of range. It reminds me of that rapper who'd already say he's not a rapper. Hedge fund, but no hedging, but no rapping. Trader, but no trading. Oh! I think Novo's almost there, yeah. Yeah, oh, it's 𝗦𝗓𝗘 that's hitting my P&L. Yeah, I wanted to, this was supposed to be a quick trade for me. I don't know, Ryan does nothing. He asks, do you think it'll take a general market crash or full-on bear market for QC to reach its fair value? It might. I don't know if what Oswath is saying, but I certainly wouldn't look at PE or price to sales, which a lot of people do. The new Lilly drug I talked about on Friday, I don't think it's that, exciting. If you're gonna travel a ton, owning a plane isn't that crazy, but unless you're gonna be traveling a ton, you just rent one. A lot easier. I don't know if gold is fully capped, but it's partially capped for sure. We can look at Taiwan Semi. I don't tend to increase or decrease because of beta. If I get my alpha, that's different. That's funny. HHHH. I think if you visit our website once, Facebook and Google track you down. Breakthrough therapy designation doesn't mean a whole lot. Cura's up on the interim analysis where they're taking one dose cohort, ending it or moving all the patients to another dose cohort, which happens to be a higher dose cohort. So the goal or the thought is that dose cohort is doing better. No, we like RZLT. Oh, Nick, it's not that soon. I think we're going to be equities focused at least until probably summer. But probably around summer, we'll start rolling out fixed income. We're busy rolling out international commodities and futures right now. Fixed income is not for grandpas. A lot of bond traders on Wall Street. 90% of bond traders have a Bloomberg. I wouldn't say 90% of Bloomberg is bond traders. Market worsening a little bit here, down 2%. I would go do business in Albania. The old CEO of Credit Suisse is running for president of Ivory Coast, I want to say, or Senegal. I don't remember exactly an African country that he's from. Do you guys remember who I'm talking about? The old Credit Suisse CEO? And he's got overwhelming support. What do I YOLO triple leveraged FDS into? I don't know. Is that English? What do I YOLO? I think I understand what that means. Triple leveraged FDS. What is that? No, hang on. RZLTs. Don't interrupt your stocks from gaining. Let them run. Let them ride. I don't know why Nvidia is getting cooked. It's a good question. I think the whole market's getting cooked. Extra crispy. Yeah, it could be risk rotation out of tech and into safe stuff, financials. I was upset. I saw that one of my favorite hedge funds, a Tiger Cub, that was bearish. He was one of the main reasons I turned bearish. Not main reasons, but he was one of the reasons I turned bearish. 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. He was up, 50% last year? Let me check, actually. Let me check my little database. All right, 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, he was up 48. Okay, hold on. He was up 52% last year and 48% the year before. Man, more than doubled his money. And he was up 3 in January. But now he's down for the year, allegedly. Small amount. He's got a pretty big fund, too. It's called Discovery. Dude, INMB, it's kind of... I tried to read the 10K. It was so couldn't handle it. So anyway, yeah, the guy was super bearish, and I'm surprised he's down. I'm sure he'll be fine, but Discovery Capital Management, very, very skilled. That's a macro guy to pay attention to, but it's a little difficult if you don't have some connections. But that's what Godel's for as well. Yeah, I don't know. How are they doing? I think they're up this year. I don't know for sure. They do seem to be more active on the short side, which is smart. I think Novo will recover. It might take a little time. They grew 30% year over year last quarter. So I don't know what people are smoking. I mean, the long term, yes, they need to replace ozempic. They need to find a smart way to do that. That's pretty crucial, but I don't think they're... Look, they may not be what Eli Lilly is, you know? They may eventually kind of run out of steam. That doesn't mean it's a bad stock to own. Yeah, I still like IVD. I think so, Rocco, yeah. Yeah, Nick, that's pretty much what's going to happen. I'm going to be a little more stern about people putting nonsense in the chat. Well, WT, I mean, one, it's pretty hard to make. You can't just like up and decide to make billions of doses of GLP. It's going to be a little hard to make generic. It's like a biologic in a lot of ways. And then, you know, they do have all the technology that Lilly has. I mean, they can make a GLP pill. They have a GLP pill. They have oral Ozempic. So, you know, I don't know that there's anything that Lilly can do that they can't do. In fact, I would say that they really are the peptide gods. There is no peptide company out there that's better at manufacturing and playing around with peptides. Their peptide chemistry is really second to none. You should see some of the stuff they publish. It's exquisite science. I'm not talking about the ridiculous research chemical peptides that some of you out there are taking. I'm talking about small proteins, 40 amino acids or less, chemically synthesized usually. In this case, Novo likes to still make them using recombinant. I'm talking about E. coli or CHO cells, Chinese hamster ovary, for those of you who don't speak. No peptide that's not FDA approved is something that you should be interested in. You know, your body is not a clinical trial. Your lived experience is not a replacement for you know, real scientific study. Sorry. Hard to do science on yourself. Sample size a little small. Yeah, there'll be some euphoria, Joey, if Powell cuts rates. I don't think I'm in Novo, but I probably should be. Biohackers, give me a break. Now listen, if you're doing it like my friend Kathy and her new husband, Dr. He, you're doing it like they're doing, you know, they're real scientists. They're doing CRISPR. It's a different story. Yeah, they just got married. You know the CRISPR dude? Yeah. Crazy, right? She told me she got married. She wouldn't say who her husband was. Now we know. Epic reveal. No, this is Kathy, a friend of mine, a younger woman, and she is marrying the geneticist from China who was arrested and did some time in jail. I was stunned to hear this. Yeah, he did yeah, exactly. That's the guy in posting on Twitter. I wonder if she's behind some of that. Who knows? But it's hilarious. Yeah, he did the gene editing. Yeah, that's him. He said that other gene editing people should keep his name out of their mouth. I don't think he has a meme coin. I think he was like trolling. Okay, so 𝗦𝗏𝗄𝗎, if we assume it becomes the biggest drug of all time, which it may or may not, this is a new HIV drug from Gilead. We get $172 stock price. The current stock price is 105. So we can get a double in a pretty large cap stock. What's HEOR? Human Resources? Beyond 10Ks. Let's see. I would read medical journals. Yeah, I would read medical journals. They're not going to be easy at first, but over time, you know, you'll understand them. I started reading the New England Journal when I was 17. And every time I saw something I didn't know, I would just circle it, learn it, and keep going. And eventually you stop circling so much because, you know, you learned a lot of it. Like, for example, one of the first things I circled was a strange word called syncope. That's how I pronounced it. Syncope. SYNCOPE. I looked at it and said, syncope? That's not I had a good vocabulary. I was just finishing studying for the SATs a year earlier. I looked at this thing and I said, syncope. And of course it's syncope, and it just means fainting. It's just a different word for fainting. And a lot of the jargon in the medical field, it's just jargon. You just know it by a different name. And there's a lot of confusing terms that, you know, you just learn them and you read the journals and you get better, and you learn some new concepts too, of course, which is very important, not just learning the vocabulary. So, you know, there's all kinds of journals, of course. There's clinical trials. Yeah, we've looked at RZLT. There's not just, you know, medical journals like New England, Lancet, JAMA, etc. There's research journals like JPET, JMedChem. Those are really good. So, you know, I more or less, I hate to say go by impact factor, but it's not the worst idea. But, you know, mastering clinical trials is probably the most important art in pharmaceuticals, my opinion. You already know pharmacoeconomics and stuff like that, so pretty much there. Mastering preclinical pharmaceuticals, also very important. If you got the clinical down, you get the preclinical down, you don't have a lot left to master. Mastering manufacturing doesn't hurt. I'd say New England Journal is the best. Yeah, learn a little biostatistics. Pretty good idea. Even just learning the general concepts is very helpful. And I probably should make a class on that. Yeah, with GPT now, it's still long NVIDIA. We're up 60 basis points here. I'm sorry, 20 basis points. Yeah, I can teach biostatistics for sure. Yeah, GLP discovery was a very interesting process. If you go back to the 90s, there was there's an article about it in the New York Times that covers it all. This is from like 20 years ago. The Gila monster is this little lizard guy. I used to pronounce it Gila monster, and he's got this venom, and they isolated GLP. You gotta love it because his name is Gila monster. He's a monster, I guess. Look at his tongue, his forked tongue. He's sticking it out like, yeah, I wish you would. Look at these little claws, and he spits his venom out. Or maybe it's in his bite. I think it's in his bite. And he's from Canarsie. Oh, he doesn't have fangs or sharp teeth? Okay. And he's got venom that paralyzes. And so anyway, they took his venom and they found GLP-1. But the guy who set up the company, it was called Amylin Pharmaceuticals. And there's like 50 things in Gila monster venom, apparently. I don't know, WT81. That reminds me of the old joke. How did they first figure out to milk a cow? And so anyway, Amylin. So basically this guy, so the guy basically he had diabetes. I don't know if he had type 1 or type 2. And he's wandering around the American Diabetes Association meetings, and he sees these posters. And I think the guy had some money or something, but he basically said, well, that looks promising. That looks promising. And he licensed both Amylin, which is the name of the company too, and it's also a gut peptide. And he got GLP-1 as well. He got Amylin approved. It was a drug called Symlin, synthetic amylin. I almost bought that drug and hiked the price up. Amylin then got the first GLP ever approved called Byetta, which is exenatide, which is Gila monster GLP-1. Novo Nordisk changed the GLP-1 to more of a human-like GLP-1, which they called liraglutide or Victoza. And so Byetta didn't have great properties. It was twice a day injection, which was brutal. It was kind of weight neutral more than a weight loss. I mean, it was a little bit of weight loss, but it was closer to weight neutral. And then they had Byetta LAR, which is a long-acting injection, but that was like, I think, a once a weeker. It wasn't great. But liraglutide was already once a week. Might have been every 2 weeks, I forget. Might have been it might have been twice a week, even as an LAR. And then, of course, many others tried to make GLP-1s, and of course, you know, Victoza gave rise to Ozempic, which was huge. But before Ozempic, there was Trulicity, which is dulaglutide. And Lilly had a deal with Amylin to co-market Byetta, and then they dumped Byetta. And I was surprised because they were developing their own dulaglutide, which is like a human GLP with an antibody region. So it had really good PK. And Trulicity became Lilly's biggest selling drug. And they basically went all in on GLP, and we know the rest. We know the history. So this stuff all happened well before, you know, some of the stuff where the research chemical experimentation community got involved, but it was already FDA approved. I mean, nobody was taking the stuff other than, diabetes patients, and then, it got mainstream, and I'm sure some people tried it.